look at us, reacting to stuff. We got our finger on the pulse of the discourse, and sure, I'm imagining that a lot of websites have suddenly hurried out a 10 bad belts list this week, but have any of them had my same dry wit, willy bum part pop? Exactly. So, for a reason that we'll very soon get to, we got a hankering to talk about bad belts. We've talked about terrible belt designs in the past, have a watch of this list, for example, but this time around we're specifically talking about when a belt had a good design, and for some reason, known only to a wrestling promoter, the hippest cat in all of sport, I mean, who has better taste than Vince McMahon? Here he is sat in front of a giant portrait of himself. For some reason, they take that beautiful belt and proceed to wipe their cultural taint with it. I'm Adam, hailing from partsFUNknown. Here are our 10 worst wrestling belt downgrades. Number 10, World Heavyweight Championship. I don't like it though. I've asked everyone in the office if they like the new World Heavyweight Championship belt, and only Dan Layton said yes, and he also thinks that Thor the Dark World is a good film, so here's a picture of the pinch of salt we'll be taking his opinions with. I asked editor Rich what he thought, and he said he thought it looked like a bumhole, and now I won't be able to unsee that, and how about you don't be able to unsee that as well? It really is almost what we want, isn't it? Which just seems to be WWE's way of doing things in 2023. The big logo, the weird little bubble which sticks out just too much to look like a weird button that you'd use to summon hyper-masculine room service. The fact there's just slightly too much leather around the edge of the gold design, making it look a bit squashed, and it's all vague, like I can't actually see any of the etching on it. I mean, no one likes change, and it might grow on us, but it's nowhere near as good as the big gold. And speaking of, number 9, the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. It's a little bit of a cheat, as we're essentially making two entries about a wrestling company taking the big gold belt design and downgrading it for no human reason whatsoever. However, this time around, it was in WCW in the early 90s. Turns out it takes 30 years for people to forget it's a bad idea to f with the big G. So, Jim Herd, the WCW head honcho who thought that Ric Flair wasn't over anymore and should cut his hair short and become a Spartacus. You know, the guy that hounded Flair out the company and into WCW's competition for almost 2 years. Him. Well, turns out another one of his very excellent Gold Star Attaboy Champ ideas was scrapping the big gold design of the WCW World Heavyweight Championship after Flair's departure, ordering a brand new belt, and well, we say a brand new belt, here is what WWE were using as their World Championship at the time, the vaunted Winged Eagle, and here is the design Jim Herd ordered. The sincerest form of flattery, I suppose. It lasted for 2 years before they reverted back to the big gold after Herd was gone from the company. Number 8, the Intercontinental Championship. Look, I realize I'm going to get called a hypocrite here, but in this very one specific case, nostalgia was right. It isn't nostalgia if the past is better, and that phrase is actually featured on Luke Owen's family crest along with pictures of Korn, Long Shorts, The Snares, and Chris Pontius. When Cody Rhodes brought back the classic IC title design, there was much rejoicing because it was glorious, and that's what people actually liking the IC title design it was replacing. That's how much people loved the classic IC title belt design. That belt survived for almost 10 years until Cody Rhodes had the temerity to start his own wrestling company in 2019, and completely coincidentally, a few months later, WWE binned the IC title that he brought back. In kayfabe, Sami Zayn, I guess, bought this for his best friend Nakamura, and now I should like this, shouldn't I? Because at least it doesn't have a huge fucking logo dominating the plate, but also yuck a bit. I can't quite put my finger on why this doesn't work. Its total lack of color makes it look a bit visually crowded. The oval plate mixed with the circular middle bump and the circular side bit, it's not dreadful, and it's a damn sight better than a giant logo stamped on leather, but it ain't as pretty as the classic look of the mid-card title. Speaking of, number 7, the US Championship. Why is the word champion so big? Why is it so big though? We know that the person holding the belt is a champion. We know that because that's what the belt means. Why'd you have to have the word so big when we already know? It's like having someone driving a fancy new car up to your house, and we all saw you arrive in the car so we know it's yours, but now you're just walking around the house twirling the key around your finger and also shouting Lamborghini at the top of your lungs. Now, to be fair, the US title has had a bunch of crap downgrades in its history. The spinner belt was a downgrade from the flag belt, and the flag belt in turn was a downgrade from the WCW US Championship. But this one's the dog worst. Number 6, the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Now, tell you what, say what you like about WCW, and I shall. They had the single worst booked year of professional wrestling in the year 2000, but they did make nice belts. Or at least they made belts that look like classic belts, because even as far back as the 90s, WCW were the wrestling equivalent of an old man saying, back in my day. You could rely on them for something traditional, is what I mean, and their Cruiserweight title was exactly that, a simple but effective little recognizable design. It was effective enough that when WWE bought WCW, WCW, they chose to keep that belt over their own light heavyweight title, and then they retired it with Hornswoggle as the last champion. That was enough to salt the earth forever, at least until 2016 when the Cruiserweight Classic, perhaps WWE's greatest ever tournament, and that's saying something coming from me, crowned a new champion, and they gave TJP this. It's a toy though. That purple is just so ugly and plastic looking. I hate it so much. It looks like it came in a cereal box. Fun fact, someone on Reddit mocked up what the belt would look like with traditional black and gold coloring, and look, kind of a prototype of the World Heavyweight butthole, isn't it? Number 5, the Ring of Honor World Championship. ROH's first logo was designed via a competition won by a teenager, and that teenager legitimately grew up to be Joaquin Wilde. Fun fact aside, they changed their logo eventually to one that wasn't designed by a teenager, because sometimes old things are worse. Here is the Ring of Honor World title that was used in Ring of Honor's heyday back in the 2010s. Isn't it lovely? Ornate, but not visually too busy. Looks like a warrior's prize. Then they changed it to this, and that's okay. The stripes are a little bit circus for me. That was the belt that Bandido had when he couldn't defend the title at Final Battle 2021, so Jonathan Gresham beat Jay Lethal for the classic Ring of Honor title, which looks like this. And you know what? That's a bit of nostalgia. I understand why they did that. This would build towards Gresham versus Bandido to unify the belt. Gresham won and kept the shithole belt. Like, the past, I get it, but also, look at this belt. Now look at this one. Why'd you keep this one, though? It looks like a replica, a cheap one. The red paint is so fucking ugly. Why does current champ Claudio still have a belt based around this one? Did you lose the other ones? Number 4, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. In a lot of ways, TNA was WCW too, including all the Southern Gothic madness, occasional industry-leading wrestling, and Vince Russo's That Statement Implies. Another thing that they inherited from old WCW was the appreciation of classic belt design. Back when the WWE Championship was spinning, and we'll get to that, the TNA World Heavyweight Championship looked like this. The tag titles, the original X Division title, the Legends title, all looked pretty damn decent. And then came the Impact belts. And oh no, they put a sticker on it. They liked it, so they put a sticker on it. See, back in 2017, TNA, now called Impact Wrestling, was set to merge with Jeff Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling. They brought over the GFW name and all their titles do not know how to handle the color green. Good lord. When Jarrett departed the company a mere 4 months after the merger, Impact became Impact again, so they just popped an Impact sticker over the Global Force name on the world title. It's an awful business. Number 3, the WWE Tag Team Championships. Bloody hell, though. Flashback to 2009. On the pre-show of WrestleMania 25, the Colons beat Miz and Morrison to unify the World Tag Team Championships and the WWE Tag Team Championships. For about a year, they were just called the Unified WWE Tag Team Championships and involved the winning team lugging around 4 belts. The Usos know your pain. Who needs space in their hand luggage? In August 2010, the night after SummerSlam, WWE decided to change that and awarded the Hart Dynasty some new belts. And aren't they shit? Not even motorcycle grandmother Bret Hart could make that copper color look good. They very quickly earned the nickname the Smash Pennies, and what's more prestigious than a Disneyland trinket you can sign to the bottom of a drawer for as long as you're alive? When the brand re-splat in 2016, the copper became silver, which is slightly better, but it's baffling that we haven't had good-looking tag titles for over 10 years now. I'm starting to become institutionalized. I'm sure WWE will bring out some new belts soon. Hopefully the classic World Tag Team Championship design, but with Vince's face hot glued on the front. Number 2, the WWE Championship. You know what I'm talking about. I will now leave 5 seconds of silence for you all to get over the fact that the spinner belt was the WWE Championship when you first started watching wrestling, and then silence the lizard part of your brain that's trying to convince you that the champ belt was good. Okay, because here's the undisputed title that came before it, and Lord Almighty, what a drop-off. And I'm not even the world's biggest undisputed belt fan. My belt's the Big Eagle, so let's hold that side by side with the spinner belt. Suffering succotash, son. So many gaudy gemstones. The way it spins so that whenever a ref would hold it up before a title match, the W would always be on its fucking side. Champ. In fact, it says champ. How humiliating. It's like meeting the undisputed title's teenage son, but then the son refused to grow out of his face for 8 fucking years. Saying the spinner belt is bad is the most ice-cold of wrestling takes, but it doesn't make the sparkly toy any less wank. The big W belt they currently have is loads better, and that's not good. It's just a big corporate keyring. And number 1, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not just doing this to make Tempest sad, although that is the main reason why I conduct 70% of my business. The current IWGP Heavyweight title is better than the spinner belt, obviously. But when we're talking about downgrades, this one hurts the most. The IWGP Heavyweight title, the one that came before the unified one, is often regarded as the most beautiful title belt of the modern era, the best since 2002, and then they unified the World and IC titles. Kota Ibushi said, "New belt, please," and they gave him this, and Kota Ibushi said, "Oh no, I'm gonna drop this to Will Ospreay immediately." Even a Power Ranger would look at this and think, that's a bit camp. From something that looked like it was chiseled out of history to something you'd find in an overseas toy shop with the copyrightless name of Big Wrestle Belt. I suppose it's functional, but shed a tear for the likes of Shingo Takagi or Sonada that they don't get to carry around this. They're forced to carry around this. It's not as good, lads. It's big, not as good. And that's our list. What do you think is the worst way a company has screwed up a wrestling belt? Let us know in the comments. And if you'd like to see more of our list, here's one from last week. Just give it a listen, you idiot. WWE intermittently treats the WWE Championship like a big deal, depending on whose waist it's around, which is very strange. You'd think they would make more big stars. They're committed to main eventing it with every show, raising wrestlers' importance up to match the belt rather than lowering the belt's importance to match the champion. But hey ho, I don't run a wrestling company. I never have, to be clear. I didn't run WC.